Hi, I'm Wes Allen with DM Tales, and back in October, I ran Supervember. Since then, I've been able to run two of those games for multiple sessions, and I've got some reflections. Let's roll it. Like I said, back in October of 2024, I ran Supervember on my channel. I reviewed 4 superhero RPG products. They were not all standalone games. First was Cypher Systems' Claim the Sky, that's their superhero companion. Savage World Adventure Edition's Superpowers Companion. Sentinel Comics RPG, and finally the Marvel Multiverse RPG. And I have to say, it was an amazing process. But something struck me as I pondered 2 of the games, and it's that they felt too constrained. See, comic book action is huge. Buildings get smashed, onlookers need to be rescued, telephone poles get swung like baseball bats, manhole covers go flying, and Kirby dots, well, they're everywhere. And the more tactical games, which counted squares and had formulas for how many walls someone could get punched through, they didn't feel like they gave enough space for the game to get as gonzo as the way a comic book does. Now, that doesn't mean that they're bad products or that they're bad games. I know a lot of people who love both of them. It's just that to me, they felt a little bit off for the genre. Now, the other 2 games, on the other hand, they felt like they could be wielded well to create a comic book feel. And as I said in the opening, I have now been able to run these 2 games for a couple of sessions, and Cypher Systems Superheroes and Sentinel Comics RPG do a great job at demonstrating the gonzo-ness of comic books. But which one does it a little bit better? That's where this comes in. In Sentinel Comics RPG, powers are abstracted. Each is described with basically a few lines of text, but there's no mechanical write-up for what a power does in the game. When a character is using a basic action, they choose a power, an aspect, which is a learned skill or inclination, and their current status die. The dice assigned to each are rolled and the results are interpreted. How that power functions when it's activated is up to the player and the GM working together to create the fiction. Now, they do have abilities which have a little bit more description, but generally the basic action type is the way the game flows. Cypher System, on the other hand, leans a bit more on the mechanical aspects of abilities. They emerge from a hero's type and focus. Many of these abilities have a point cost to activate, making them a limited resource which are locked to specific values on the sheet. On the other hand, when superhero genre is being used in the Cypher System, it introduces the concept of power shifts. These are automatic modifiers which are applied to specific tasks or enable certain abilities. A power shift in flight, for example, that gives the character an ability to fly. Shocking, I know. And strength can help with lifting heavy objects or inflicting a heavy blow, doing more damage. These power shifts are what make heroes super, as they cause a dramatic reduction in a task's target number. At the same time, what these shifts look like, well, that's up to the player's narration, very similar to Sentinel Comics. Now, as a GM, I appreciate the way these games do their best to offer both free-form expression and mechanical guidance for a character's superpowers. I think I'd give the edge to Sentinel Comics RPG right now because the way Cypher System links activating abilities to a mechanical cost makes them feel a tad bit more limited, but man, it's close. As with powers, Sentinel Comics RPG abstracts the obstacles heroes will encounter through the overcome action. It's a basic action. Anything that prevents a hero from accomplishing their goal requires an overcome action. Powering down a force field requires an overcome action. Breaking down a titanium reinforced door requires an overcome action. Non-combatants caught in the hazardous situation and require a rescue, that needs an overcome action to be rolled. Dancing through the fire trap without getting singed requires, well, you guessed it, it's an overcome action. And if a task is difficult, well, that may take several overcome actions to get through the obstacle and on to the other side. And I am in love with the overcome mechanic because it frees a GM to toss just about any obstacle in the hero's way without needing to worry about balancing things out. I can describe a roadblock as anything I want, and I don't have to care about setting up a way to defeat it. I can just rely on the players to come up with a solution, and when they do, I can just say, well, okay, that's an overcome action, or that's going to be 2 overcome actions. Let's see what happens. It's fantastic. Now, Cipher System ties obstacles to its unified mechanic. Everything in the game, including objects, is ranked level 0 to 10. To get the target number that a player has to roll on a d20, a GM takes the level and multiplies by 3. Now, an obstacle's level can be modified. A player can assist someone trying to deal with a barrier and lower that level by 1. A character can be trained in a relevant skill, which reduces the level by 1 or 2. A character can be constrained, which raises the level, or a character's power shifts can come into play, lowering the target by 1 for each relevant shift. After all the modifications are taken into account, the final number is multiplied by 3, yielding the target number. In Cipher System, objects have a damage track instead of health, and this is a 4-step track which describes the weakening status of an object before it breaks, which is a lot like requiring several overcome actions in Sentinel Comics RPG. Now, I have heard folks remark that Cipher's level system sounds a bit like a chore. I've actually found it to be both fast and fun at the table. On the other hand, transforming obstacles into complete abstractions, which are resolved with a single mechanic, is even faster than the Cipher System. Take the target number and multiply by 3. As with powers, picking between these two games is really difficult, but I have to give the slight edge to Sentinel Comics RPG. Were this a sprint, though, the difference would maybe be 1/100th of a second. They're really, really close for capturing that comic book feel. Comic book battles are chaotic. As the Kirby dots fly, complications arise and situations go sideways really, really fast. To get the comic book feel right, a superhero RPG needs to have a way to bring this chaos into a scene. This is where both Sentinel Comics RPG and Cipher System excel. Now, SCRPG uses the overcome action to inject comic book chaos into a scene. When a hero attempts to deal with an obstacle using an overcome action, the results die is compared to a table. Anything above an 8, well, that succeeds, and anything above a 12 is an awesome success. But any result between 1 and 7 is a failure unless the player accepts either a major, which is a 1 to 3 result, or a minor, 4 to 7 result, twist. Now, major twists are going to put a hero at a significant disadvantage, blocking a power for a scene, doing significant damage to the hero, giving a player a persistent hindrance to a roll, or injecting a weighty adversary into the scene. Minor twists, on the other hand, are just setbacks. They block a power for a turn or two, they add some more minions to a fight, they might do a small bit of damage, or hinder the player's next roll. Twist, though, can also advance SCRPG's scene tracker, escalating the stakes because every conflict inside Sentinel Comics RPG is on a timer, and when it gets to the end, bad things happen. So when a twist triggers an instant jump to the next number, well, that gets a little bit hairy. In SCRPG, the environment may also have twists set up for it. If a player rolls low on an overcome action where the environment is a factor, twists can be triggered which affect every participant in the space. This makes the situation feel more desperate, such as the building catching fire or a bridge beginning to collapse. Really a cool concept. Twists from overcome actions are neat. They're easy to adjudicate, and the player and the GM work together to make them fit the story. Twists also never negate a success, so players still feel like their characters are moving forward. Really, the whole setup is well done. Cipher System uses something called intrusions for similar ends. They can inflict damage, put a character at disadvantage, or add in new elements which alter the very nature of a scene. Intrusions are triggered whenever a player rolls a natural 1. When this happens, whatever the character is attempting to do fails and something extra is imposed on them. If they were trying to avoid damage, the character may have dodged into the blow instead. If they were attacking, a weapon might break. If they were trying to bluff their way into a party, perhaps the bouncers become hostile. When the chaos gets unleashed, the characters need to deal with the new obstacles. Intrusions may also be triggered by a GM who wants to mix things up a bit. See, if a battle goes too fast, a new adversary needs to appear, or the players aren't paying attention to the environment, a GM can trigger an intrusion which makes the situation a lot more complex. When they do so, the GM awards an experience point to the player who's being directly affected by the intrusion, and then gives a second experience point for that player to gift to someone else at the table. It's kind of a fun thing. Even more fun than that, players can spend their experience points to trigger their own intrusions. In this way, and with the GM's agreement, a player can add an element which grants them an advantage. Maybe they remember a weakness in the particular model of lock they're trying to bypass. A car's leaking oil may make some adversaries slip on the ground, hindering their next action. Or an open window pops into existence, which grants the characters access somewhere without triggering a dust-up. Always a good idea. Intrusions are a lot of fun for the table, and their chaotic nature is perfect for comic book style play. I love both these mechanics, and they are a perfect fit for a superhero/comic book genre. I give a slight edge to Cypher System, however, because the combination of both narrative and mechanical triggers is a winner for me. But as with the previous sections in this post, that edge, it's really slight. In Cypher System, at least rules as written, adversaries have a health stat and attacks on them do a static amount of damage. Because of this, putting adversaries out of a fight means overwhelming them with enough hits to knock them out. Cypher System also allows adversaries to be grouped together with 3 or 4 of the same type, which gives them a higher level, and these buffed adversaries will have more health, they're going to be harder to affect, and they're going to do more damage to the player characters. The game's ability to group adversaries into single entities helps make confrontations feel more massive while keeping the mechanics simple and fast. I love this about Cypher System. On the other hand, the way adversaries are designed can make them feel like they're sticking around too long while their health gets whittled away. Sometimes a few bad rolls can make combat feel longer than it should be. Also, if the GM is adding low-level minions to weaken the heroes, it can be disappointing to watch the players dodge attack after attack after attack after attack with easy rolls. See, in Cypher System, GMs don't roll dice. It doesn't always happen this way, and if players are spending their attribute points to assist their attack and defense rolls, minions still do have a weakening effect on the player characters, but, it's nice to hit every now and again. On the other hand, in Sentinel Comics RPG, most of the adversaries heroes will face are represented by a single die type, which is what those NPCs roll for every check they make. Also, in SCRPG, attacks always hit. When a block of minions is given initiative, they can make life very difficult for the heroes. That makes them feel potent. Single die adversaries are categorized as either minions or lieutenants, and their survival mechanic works really well. Whenever one of these adversaries is targeted with an attack, they make a damage save and have to meet or beat the number which the players rolled against them. If a minion fails this roll, they're out. They're just removed from the scene instantaneously. If a minion succeeds on their roll, their die type is going to be reduced by 1, and they're going to continue in the fight. SCRPG minions are perfect glass cannons. They pack a serious punch, but can be knocked out of a fight fast. Lieutenants are just a little bit different because their die type is reduced only on a failed damage save. This tends to keep them in a fight longer, making the heroes' lives miserable as they dish out punishment or continue with their tasks. A lieutenant's durability makes them a perfect stand-in for a minor villain. Full-fledged SCRPG villains, on the other hand, they use dice pool mechanics which are similar to the player characters. They also have distinct abilities, like the PCs, which pack a serious punch and do have some narrative and mechanical functions to them. This shift from the single dice mechanic makes villains feel both distinct and dangerous. This may be the only area where I feel one game outshines the other, because the combination of SCRPG's glass cannon minions who have a chance to stick around, beefy minor villains who can deal out significant punishment, and dangerous villains who are terrors to face is what I look for in a game. Now, I love the Cypher System conflicts. Do not get me wrong. Cypher System is one of my favorite systems to run and play, but the distinctiveness SCRPG gives to the different types of adversaries gives that system an edge. I just love the way it's designed. I don't enjoy pitting one system against another to have a winner. It doesn't feel right to me. Instead, I enjoy comparing systems so that I can grow in my appreciation for what each brings to the table. In some respects, this particular comparison really isn't even fair. Cipher System is, after all, a generic system which is designed to be used for any genre, while Sentinel Comics RPG is designed from the ground up for comic book play. On the other hand, 3 of the 4 sections in this comparison were toss-ups, and Cipher System even came out on top in one section, which is impressive. I hope I was able to spotlight what each of these systems does well and explain how each is capable of creating a comic book feel for the game. While Sentinel Comics RPG gets the edge for me, you can't go wrong with either if you want to run some superheroes at the table. Check them both out. Okay, coming up, I am indeed outlining my review for the Path of Glory adventure path for Dragonbane. It's going to be really fun to write, and I have to make sure I keep all spoilers out of it, but it is a really cool adventure path to go on. Like I said in previous videos, do not take starting characters on this adventure. They will just die. After that, I am still trying to get people not sick so that I can play more Munchkin Shadowrun so I can get that review up. It's just unfair to do it on a single playthrough where I was still learning the rules. So I'm trying to get that back up. And I have begun reading the Monty Python RPG. It's the Monty Python's co-curricular medieval reenactment program, which is not a game. It's very serious. I am about 86 pages into it. I thought it was going to take me forever to read because I'm laughing hysterically. I am managing to laugh hysterically and get through it really fast. So that's going to come up after Path of Glory and probably before Munchkin Shadowrun. It's really cool. And in fact, if I haven't already put it out by then, I'm going to be doing a first look at the product as a live stream sometime in the 3rd week of February. And I'll put the link like there if I get this up after I actually do it. If not, that'll be the link to the actual live stream. This game is awesome. I cannot wait to share it with folks. I have a real long list of books after that that I have coming in. Project Sunflower still sitting on my shelf there. I just picked up Never Going Home. I want to get back into reviewing maybe Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics. I have Seasons Eatings, which is the zombie survival game by John McGuire. I've got, holy smokes, I need to look at the reforged version of Monsters and Treasures for Castles and Crusades. There's a lot, and I am really looking forward to sharing it with everybody because these games are so cool. Thank you so much for being on this journey, for watching these videos, and for hanging out with me while I talk about this wonderful hobby. Until we see each other again, folks, happy playing, everyone.